Check. Keep it alive through these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage. And I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares. Nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling and flare. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch the scenario. My stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away. Asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah, just nod your head with it, so explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it, no scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool, hear my heartbeat, beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind, oh no. It's Ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones, bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in, full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like I told you. I'm doing this for dreams we pursuing.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio. Once again with your host Nick Burnaby here on UCY.tv. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you check out our website, theantimedia.org. We got an interesting show tonight. We're gonna have DB on the program, but we're also joined here in the studio by Alex Fidel, which is was an independent candidate for mayor here in one of the outskirts cities of San Diego and Encinitas, and he's joining us in the studio tonight to mix things up and see what we can talk about tonight. We're also going to be taking some callers at 718-717-8296. Make sure you guys bookmark UCY.tv and check out all the other awesome journalists that are on the show. And make sure you catch us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here on the same channel. You can bookmark it or come back to us whenever and listen in. You can also check out the archives that are on the left-hand side of the page or find us on YouTube. So we got some interesting stuff to talk about tonight. I'm sure you guys are probably familiar with Alex Fidel. He was the guy that we featured on the Anti-Media a while back about he was on a local corporate media station, and he pretty much challenged the two-party system on live TV, and it made a lot of waves. I mean, how many shares did we end up getting on that article? Like 90,000 or something crazy like that?
Well, the video views went up to 80, almost, I think around 80,000. I'm not sure if it hit 80,000 yet. But yeah, it was pretty rad. My Facebook page was exploding, and there's people around the world seeing it, offering a lot of inspiration to people, because it's definitely a blueprint. Because I see a lot of independent candidates don't have really good websites, and mine isn't the best, because I designed it myself. But it's a little bit more like designy, and it's educational, like awakens people, gives them tools how to find alternative media, honest media, and know your rights, and then the issues, and like at a local level, how can you tackle issues of, like the Federal Reserve or free energy or drug policy? How can you do those at the local level? Well, I spent a lot of time thinking about that, and one of the greatest tools we have is the 10th Amendment. There's actually a bunch of like model legislations that you can use, like against the Patriot Act, against nuclear, against fracking, against GMOs. Against legal tender laws for freedom of currency, against the NSA, against the NDAA, against and we actually submitted an NDAA and drone ban. You were there at a protest outside City Hall with Cindy Sheehan, and they never took our legislation seriously, and they wrote it off, even though it was about a pretty serious police state incident involving a armored vehicle that they used. So that's just the corruption at the local level. So I think through my life experience in this, I got to really see what the corruption is at the local level, and it's pretty much on the same as the state and national level. Maybe not as dark, or it probably is as dark, just a different beast, because they're not like committing war crimes. They kind of are in some senses, like militarized police, but they're just like a mini version of the other levels of government. So it's just you learn a lot, and you make them shiver in your spine. If you look at the election results, like at 2%, which is about 387 votes, which is a little, not as much as I would have liked to see, because that enables basically them to ridicule independent candidates, saying, "Oh, you can't win." And I really do think that the two-party system has to go down sooner rather than later, because all these people that died in these wars, or all these corporate collusionism, it's like politics is not a game. People's lives are the costs, and it would only be beneficial to kick people out of Congress. It wouldn't be hurtful if we had people like me, or like a bunch of Ron Pauls or Dennis Kuciniches, because every single member of Congress every single member of the Senate voted for foreign aid for Israel, and now we just made it a Republican,
including Rand Paul,
obviously, Paul, and Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, on the other side.
All these guys that are supposedly anti-establishment.
Yeah.
So now a lot of the things that were on your platform, more or less, the topics that were on your platform, are things that young people identify with, right? Privacy, anti-NSA, anti-police state.
Yep.
And it's a lot of things that younger people, no matter what spectrum in the political spectrum they fall into, they kind of agree with a lot of these things. And they understand that there's something wrong with the foreign policy, and we shouldn't be supporting Israel. There was a poll that came out a few months ago when when Operation Protective Edge was going on in Palestine. And it showed there was a stark difference between the way that young people looked at the struggle of the Palestinian people and the way old people looked at the struggle with the Palestinian people.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, people listening right now probably know where I'm getting with this. Old people tended to basically side with the Israelis because, for the most part, they watch a lot of TV and are brainwashed in that way. And younger people tended to side with the Palestinians because we don't watch TV, we get our news from the internet, and obviously when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict online, the Palestinians have the upper hand because the PR that comes from the Palestinian perspective is much more prevalent online, and people that are Zionists get shouted down and all that stuff, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
But the older people tend to align more with the Zionists, align more with the foreign policy. They buy into the crap that they see on TV, and therefore that reflects in their voting. It reflects in their voting, right? So they vote the same way that they're being fed in the media.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So they all vote along these. When it comes to foreign policy, they're all voting along these neoconservative lines. When it comes to social policy, it's just whatever the bones that the media are going to throw us at that time, which they may give us a little bit of social freedom. They may open up a little bit to same-sex marriage. They may open up a little bit to legalize cannabis and stuff like that. But when it comes down to these things that are really undermining the whole country, I think that a lot of it, for one, is bipartisan, right? Like you said, everybody in the Senate voted for foreign aid to Israel, right? But secondly, none of it aligns with the younger people's point of view. And I think that young people really lost their will to go out and vote in 2008, right? After everybody came out, all the young people came out and voted for Obama. And it was such a great sensation.
Yeah.
But after that, we've been kind of left in this situation where anybody that's basically under 40, anybody under 35, 40, is kind of stuck in this situation where, look, we've been casting our votes for so long. All of us casted our votes for Obama. And then what did Obama do? He came in and he changed nothing. In fact, he just made things worse. He carried on Bush's policies, and where Bush left off, he picked up the torch and just carried it further and further.
Double down.
Yeah. So, this is the disconnect, I think. Young people understand that things are very messed up. They understand the country is going in the wrong direction, but at the same time, they don't feel like voting is the way to fix things because they lost all of their, will to vote after voting for Obama in 2008.
I think it's because a lot of people aren't really like hip to the whole thing about the two-party system, and that, for me, I'm definitely sympathize with the non-voting movement, but I don't see how because I could have a chicken farm and a Bitcoin account, and that's all. We should be self-sufficient and go off grid, but Congress is still going to be passing foreign aid to Israel. Children in Gaza are going to keep dying. There's still like a bunch of tax-paying Americans, that go to the mall. They just pay their taxes because it's habit. They feel like they have to. The zombie mentality. They pay the taxes. It goes to pay for bombs, kills them. They don't even know that it's paying for bombs, and they wouldn't care either way. And that's just so. No matter how anarchist I am, the Pentagon's going to still do what they're going to do. The CIA is still going to do what they're going to do, and the Congress is going to still send money and weapons to harm innocent people. And I think that every life counts, and they're really depending on, and it's not us, it's the government that's waging these wars in our names, but we're not approving of it. Since they are doing it, but we have the power to overtake Washington, D.C. peacefully but powerfully. It is like our duty to get our collective shit together and to stop the wars, because priority number one, people got to stop dying needlessly. You can't stop everyone from getting leukemia, but bombs, that's unnatural. Bombs don't have to fall on people. So we have to stop the bombs ASAP. That is priority number one. Then we can really talk about other things when mothers aren't losing their 1-year-old children, or 1-year-old children aren't losing their mothers, like in Gaza, or 100,000 people homeless. We could talk that's like human misery that does not need to happen. So it's definitely why I advocate going outside the two-party system, and what I've gotten to do with my candidacy is reach out to a lot of young people. My former high school had like a feature story on my candidacy, and so many people there can't vote, but they were like, yes, like finally, so I'm going to try to get these people to mobilize, because if they can't vote, they can yell at city council.
Here's one thing that we always forget to think about. What about the people, all those people that are under 18? Yeah. How many people in this country are under 18? 50 million?
Yeah.
20 million, 30 million, maybe more, who knows?
Drug war.
So all of these young people that are under 18 that legally can't vote, we're talking about voters. What about the people that can't even vote? They have no voice at all, except for the crap that they are able to convince their parents of. That's it.
Well, this is where they should go to because City Hall is right down the street. And they usually, there's a drug-free, we actually have one, here in the studio, we have one of the illegal, there was a medical cannabis measure, and they couldn't get their shit together enough time to oppose the measure, so they still, broke the rules and printed these illegal signs that says, keep kids safe, no on F, no pot stores, even though California law says they have to register as not-for-profit medical cooperatives. They still call it a store because it's just fear tactic. They don't have any ethics.
Yeah, I saw that sign. You showed it to me last night at your
Nick, just to quickly interject, because I've been listening to you guys and it's fascinating, but
peace.
This is DB, man. There's 75 million people under 18, dude.
Imagine if they went to if 200 youth, went to a City Hall meeting and said the drug war is ruining our life. And actually, thankfully, California passed Prop 47, so you don't get a felony charge. So your life is ruined. You can't get a loan or college or job or anything like that. But let's say pre-47, the drug war is ruining our lives. Can you use the 10th Amendment at the local level to, stop, education, not incarceration? That we need to, like Bill Hicks said, they're sick. Handcuffs in jails are going to help to heal sick people. It makes no sense. And if young people rose up, and actually one of the teachers one of my favorite teachers used to run a Students for Sensible Drug Policy chapter in the high school, had the backing. So they went, and the main person supporting this No on F thing was the drug-free youth coalition. But drug-free youth, prohibition makes it easier for kids to get drugs, and the quality, you don't know whether a milligram of heroin is that strong, or that's what leads to overdoses. You don't know the quality or the strength of the substance, and it not only does it ruin people's lives, it increases overdose makes it easier for kids to get drugs, empowers violent drug cartels to behead people. It also, the incarceration thing with, especially if you live in an inner city and you don't happen to be white, you're most likely going to have your life ruined by these drugs. So drug-free youth is the most, obscene oxymoron, organization. But if a bunch of kids said, no, screw you, you do not speak for us, busybody witch. We support drug policy reform because it's compassionate, it's rational, it's based on facts, and we need to have bright futures, education, not incarceration. That'd be from kids who will be able to vote in like 2 years.
No matter how much you shelter a kid, when he leaves the nest, the more, in fact, a lot of times, the more you shelter the kid, the worse off the problems are,
Exactly.
So these ideas need to be made irrelevant, and luckily in California, that's one of the bright spots in this whole election. Everyone's flipping out because the Republicans took the Senate, which in reality is really not going to change anything.
Nope.
Nothing at all is going to change other than the fact that they're going to be able to blame Obama for vetoing all this crap, and they're going to be able to elect a Republican in 2016.
It's by design, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely, that's what they're trying to do. And that isn't important. But what is important is the proposition, like in California, Prop 47, which dealt a major blow to the war on drugs.
Oh, yeah.
Basically what California did, and this law is already in effect, it went in effect overnight.
Really?
It basically it de-felonized drug use. So if you get caught, if you get busted in your car smoking meth, for instance, you're not going to be thrown in prison for that anymore in California. You're going to get a misdemeanor, you're going to get a ticket still, but at least you're not going to be thrown into prison, and you're going to have another chance.
And felony means you can't vote, you can't do anything.
When you get a felony, you're basically giving up your right. You're basically giving up your chances of having a good job too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of jobs are going to say, "Oh, we looked at your background and you got a felony, and we're not going to be able to hire you." So the injustice system, like I like to call it, it really deals its blows in that way. And unfortunately, most states are still. Drugs other than marijuana in most states are a felony, and marijuana itself in places like Texas and states that are still very conservative when it comes to drug laws, those states are still treating cannabis possession as a felony. You could end up in jail or prison for cannabis. In fact, there was a kid in Texas that he had a tray of cannabis-infused brownies, and he was facing a crazy term, like 40 years in prison or something, because he had a tray of brownies, and they treated that whole tray, because it weighed a few pounds, it was a few pounds of brownies, they treated it as a few pounds of weed, and they're trying to sentence this kid to 40 years in prison.
That's irrational.
It's crazy. And so I think, one thing that we need to also think about is youth suffrage, right? The people that are under 18, they don't even have a voice. They can't even vote.
But the cops
how long did it take us to get minorities to be able to vote? How long did it take us to get women to be able to vote? What about the youth? We've all forgotten about them. Everyone's like, oh yeah, they're too young to vote anyway. But I think the youth are the smartest people. They're the least brainwashed. They're the least indoctrinated,
yeah.
And they would have the purest ideas, the most innocent ideas that would actually benefit humanity. And that's what we need to start.
Voter age 16, man, that'll fix it.
All right, so we're joined here on the show with DB. We had a little connection problem earlier, and we're also joined from 818 with Manny from LA. How you doing, Manny?
Hey, what's up, brother Nick, brother DB up there, the renegades of the anti-media. Just wanted to, say good try up there, brother Benella, brother Alex. But you had a hard time. You had a hard battle in Encinitas. The only thing you had going for you is your vanilla, but it's a very conservative place, and your age didn't help you much. And I know how Encinitas is. I was down there helping them protest. I was the only Mocha brother out there, you know what I mean? And it's just amazing, so.
Yeah.
And I saw that you had 3%. You had said 2%, but I saw you at 3%. Which one is correct?
It's like 2-point-something%. But actually, since you mentioned like the whole aspect of racism or just other forms of prejudice. Well, since I'm off the ballot now, I ran with my legal name, but I'm legally changing my name to my Islamic spiritual name, which is Ali Salam, which Salam means peace in Arabic. So you guys can call me Ali. No more like election trade. But I didn't make it prominent. But if anybody wanted to know, they could find out that I was a Muslim or that I'm a medical cannabis patient. I wasn't. Nobody. I would answer it honestly if anyone asked me about psychedelics use, but nobody asked me.
So why don't we ask you right now?
Oh, good for you. Actually, I was actually inspired. She happens to be a Republican, but I was inspired by that young lady. I actually sent Nick something on his timeline.
I heard about
she's 18 years old in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
That won. And she did it all from her dorm. I mean, that blew me away.
Yeah, I did it all from a laptop. Same thing. Spent and raised under $1,000. No debt. But I really think I sent a shiver up the spine of the establishment because they probably didn't expect that I was going to turn out so low. Either way, whether or not my ideas still threaten them and my presence and the fact that people, especially since whenever I post the council member's phone number on my Facebook page, I have like a worldwide audience. So there's probably people from like all over the world giving them calls and giving them shit for being, corporatists and stuff like that.
And the other thing that was awesome about your campaign too, and I went down there and I live streamed one of your debates, is that you were successfully able to shift the debate,
the consensus,
and we were able to, and Manny, you could vouch for this, man. We had there was a debate in Encinitas, and one of the biggest topics they talked about was the militarization of the police.
Thanks to you.
And I think Alex's candidacy really helped shift the conversation over to things that actually matter, things that actually affect us. Now, most debates, all the debates that you see on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, these are all these presidential debates and stuff. They're all completely superficial.
Yep.
If you remember back in the 2012 Republican candidate debates and stuff, I mean, this was basically all it was a warmongering PR campaign.
One of the questions was, do you like Coke or Pepsi? Gary Johnson got excluded from it, and he did a video, and he's like, water. I like that.
Yeah, and I mean, they completely exclude certain candidates. Dennis Kucinich got it basically more or less excluded or ignored in the Democratic race, and then Ron Paul got ignored in the Republican race. Because of the fact that they control the media, the corporate media tries to control the election so much, and I think that's one of the places that we need to make the most improvement on when it comes to future elections and stuff, 2016 and beyond. Is if we're actually going to have an expectation of getting legitimate candidates in, then the media is going to have to go through a revolution. We can't have CNN, MSNBC, Fox News dictating the electoral cycle.
Exactly.
And that having it run that way, it's going to be based on all these superficial ideas, and we're never going to actually talk about real problems, And I think that's why Ron Paul mainly got excluded in 2012, was because he was actually the one candidate that actually wanted to address foreign policy. He actually wanted to address the drug war. He actually wanted to address things that are affecting everybody in their everyday lives. Unfortunately, what the media wanted to project was that, okay, we're just going to have a superficial debate based on superficial things that the government shouldn't even have a voice in. So it's like, okay, this person wants to have this much government in this topic, and this person wants to have this much government in this topic. Well, in reality, the government should not even be talking about that topic in a lot of times,
exactly.
Right? So I think we have to have a revolution in the media if we're going to break away from this cycle of just these John McCains and these Barack Obamas and these George Bushes and these Hillary Clintons and all these fools, all these buffoons that are feeding us all these sugar-coated lies, telling us the economy is all better, telling us that everything's okay, telling us that we're bringing freedom and peace to places like Libya and Syria. I mean, these are ideas that we need to really bring into the mainstream, and in the current state of affairs, that is not going to happen.
Well, I think it's complete psychological warfare. It's MK Ultra. They use the media to skew the outcome of the election. That's why C-SPAN censored the free and equal debate, canceled it, because it would have given those candidates a voice to a national audience, and people living in other states would be more inclined to vote for alternative party and independent candidates. They never mention the alternative party, so it's a name recognition thing. So you're bombarded in the head with Republican, Democrat, Obama, Romney, and what's the ratio of how much they mention Gary Johnson? Like basically near zero. If it's not like marginalizing when they do mention him, it's why I always say like we have to like I think the non-voters are right when it comes to within the two-party system, but we have to replace every member of Congress because they're voting to send foreign aid to Israel. They're voting for the bombs. They're not going to care how anarchist we are, how off the grid we are. People are still going to get bombed because they still have the other half of the population that go to the mall, sheeple, pay the taxes, not even care if war crimes are being committed in your name, and people are still going to get bombed, and human misery is going to continue. And think of how much human misery we would have spared had we risen up in 2012, and that's why I was so adamant on really no more two parties starting right now, because I knew how many people were going to die from 2012 to yesterday.
There was a headline coming out of the AP. Now, we're getting a little bit of feedback, I think, from 619. Make sure you have your radio muted and your phone not on speakerphone. We're going to come to you next to see what you want to talk about. But there was a headline that came out of AP yesterday where it said basically people voted with they held their nose to vote, right? And this is like the main talking point. If you look at any of the coverage of the elections, everyone's like, oh, everyone is holding their nose to vote. They don't want to vote for Democrats, but they don't want to vote for Republicans, but they're going to hold their nose and vote for Republicans anyway. And so it's kind of like these guys are in the corporate media. They're coming out and saying, yeah, the American people are kind of they're wise to the fact that the two-party system is complete garbage, but while at the same time they say, oh, they're holding their nose and voting, they are not presenting an alternative at all. All they're saying is like, well, they are Democrats, but they can't stand the way the Democrats are acting, so they're going to just have to vote Republican. If those corporate media outlets actually gave credence to independents, to Green Party, to Libertarian Party, and all the other parties that are out there, those people would actually have a chance.
But they're not going to do it because they did it on purpose.
The corporate media doesn't give that option. They just say, oh, everyone's holding their nose to vote. They don't like voting for this party or that party, but they're going to have to vote anyway, and they're going to have to vote for one of them.
Yeah.
And they don't give the alternative. And now in some places like California, now it's funny because California, we were the first state to more or less legalize marijuana, right? Prop 215 set the stage for all these other states. Now, we just got done passing Prop 47. Prop 47 is a major blow to the drug war. Great. But what else does California have? Top two primaries.
Yeah.
Top two primaries basically cuts out any chance of a third party or independent party person running for a major office in California.
Because they get cut off in June and nobody votes in June, nobody pays attention in June. But it's like the same thing in 2012. It's like, are innocent children being killed by drone strikes not enough to wake you up, to make you want to get involved? It's like, what is it going to take? I mean, and that's the whole problem. Like, it shouldn't take, something happening to the homeland and to your family. It's like, you have to think about other people. People that live on the other side of a border are not less human. We're all, part of this, we're all, equal and like everything like that. We're all brothers and sisters. And to see like innocent people in Pakistan, like what if that was me? Like, what makes me so special? Because I'm American, and that's why I was so adamant. Because we have to care about what people are dying or not. That's just like, and especially something unnatural like a bomb. A bomb is not how people are supposed to go out. It's not natural. It's not human nature because
conflict only spreads too. It's not going to stop. It's never going to stop, and the blowback's going to come one day.
Exactly.
And back in the day, before we had all this industrial revolution, war machinery and stuff, I mean, people were getting killed by arrows, dude, and like you could only kill so many people with an arrow.
Yeah.
But nowadays you can drop a bomb and kill. If you think back at like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we killed 50,000 plus, 100,000 people.
Firebombing of Tokyo was 100,000 people in 2 hours.
Okay, and we're talking about fission bombs. These are small. Like these are compared to what we have now, which are the hydrogen nuclear bombs. We're talking about 200, 300 times the strength, and even much higher than that. So, I mean, humans possess weapons at this point in time, which we have enough weaponry to wipe out all the people in the world, right? And we can drop one bomb on a place like Los Angeles. If a thermonuclear bomb was dropped on Los Angeles, you would probably see like 5 million people dead. You know, and these are the type of reality that we face. But the problem is that we actually need that stuff. We don't need weapons that kill off all these people. We don't need all these tribalistic, very primitive ideas where we have to kill people to convince them of our ideas. And this is the problem. I mean, this is the whole problem. Democrats, Republicans, they all want to force their opinions onto all of us. Yeah. Okay, the Republicans want to outlaw abortion. Okay, that's their own opinion. Okay, because an abortion is done by a person that is pregnant and it has another person inside of its body, right? And that choice is on that person. Now, do I agree with abortion? Do I think abortion is a good thing? No, I think it's awful. But do I think people should have the right to choose it for themselves? Yes.
But will we evolve to a consensus like one day and stop fighting? Is the question.
I mean,
well, it's like Bill Hicks said. It's like what's going to happen? How are we going to keep building nuclear weapons? What's going to happen to the arms industry when we realize we're all one? It's going to fuck up the economy. That's fake, anyways. And of course, not in a new world order, dissolving national borders sense, but in more of like a, spiritual sense. You shouldn't pick up a gun against another human being that hasn't transgressed upon you. That's just kind of like a consciousness shift that we're going to have to go through, that these primitive ways we're just being used as pawns. They keep us down psychologically, and then just hurt us like, pawns in the game.
Yeah, it's all part of this whole left-right paradigm BS, right? This whole bullshit left-right paradigm where they're like, remember when Bush was in office, the 2 years leading up to Bush, it was like, everybody's like, oh yeah, Bush is horrible. In fact, there was even shirts that came out. Fools were wearing shirts all over the place that said "Buck Fush," which is like basically F Bush, but they had it like with the letters backwards or whatever. Bush had become so unpopular, and everybody was like blaming Bush. Now, was Bush a horrible president? Yes. Criminal. Did he do some horrible things? Yes. Does he deserve to be in prison and possibly the death sentence? Yes. Yes. But Bush is just one guy.
Yeah.
And all he is a puppet of the real things that are going on, right? Mm-hmm. Just like Obama. Now, Obama is now at this point in time where we're about 2 years out from the next presidential election. Obama, what I like to call it is the Bushification of Barack Obama, where now he is being demonized by not only Fox News, but MSNBC. If you turn on MSNBC, there's going to be people on there criticizing Obama. You turn on CNN, there's going to be people criticizing Obama.
But they won't give you the solution of third parties.
Exactly. So what they're basically saying is like, okay, now we're going to start shifting all of the blame, and this election is a perfect example of what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
They start shifting all of the blame on the people that are in charge. So who's in charge right now? Superficially, Barack Obama and the Democrats. At least they were. Now the Senate is taken over by the Republicans because the Democrats were made out to be the bad guys.
Bill Clinton scenario.
And Obama is slowly but surely, even by the most liberal outlets, including New York Times, Salon, Mother Jones, CBS, MSNBC, all these supposedly superficial left-wing publications are now coming out against Obama. And they're all starting to blame Obama. Why? Well, because this is the Bushification of Obama. You have to make him look really bad so that you can elect a Republican, and the Republican can blame everything on Obama, and then the cycle just continues. Just like Obama was able to blame everything on Bush. And this is the cycle that the corporate media is trying to drag us into. And by all means, this election really showed that they're still in control. So what does it tell me? We have a lot of work to do. Now, I do want to bring in this caller from 619. Just because you've been on the line for a while, I want to make sure that you're still here. And if you had a question or if you wanted to chime in on what we're talking about, feel free. Go for it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the problems exist because of the two-party paradigm. We really do need the independents. They all work for the oligarchs. I don't know if, you've ever watched a documentary called American Ruling Class by Louis Latman. He used to be the editor-in-chief for the New York Times a few years ago. And Walter Cronkite states that there is an American oligarchy, and that it is a financial elite who controls so much of the industry and controls so much of the money supply that they are able to manipulate the system and the politicians itself to have effective control. Well, now if you just go with the idea of, capitalism being for your best self-interest, but if you've got the money, why not buy a politician, have them vote in your favor and everything? That would be in your own best self-interest. So we kind of have to expect this behavior. If we, don't want to see that behavior, well, then we need a clean house and switch up a whole lot of our systems so we don't have this problem anymore. We actually work towards the good of humanity as the whole that it is, especially our own country.
Hey, Manny, what do you think about that?
Well, that's the reason I never voted, because starting in Mexico, for instance, down there, if you don't vote, you can get fired from your job, Thank God I was working in the United States by then, But that's the way the system is down there, as far as buying politicians, one of the things that's bad with politics right now, I can donate money living in Tijuana to a politician here in San Diego. And, of course, you already know that story that's happened here in San Diego. All these politicians at city council were getting money from Tijuana people. How can that be possible? I thought you had to live here to donate money to the state of California, but obviously it's not. And then, of course, the system is so bad that they make it so bad for the third party to come in to debate with the two parties and stuff like that, or even to get on the ballot. And you look at Ferguson, for instance. I mean, are you kidding me? They had all this equipment for the cops. They had all these things going on, but they didn't have enough ballots. And then they said there was a lot of rigging machines around the United States. When you can rig votes in machines and stuff like that. So it's difficult. It really is difficult.
Well, luckily I wasn't excluded from any debates in Encinitas, probably because it's so local and I could have made a bunch of noise, because being involved with Gary Johnson and Jill Stein thing, third parties, or I like to call them alternative parties in 2012, it really kind of was looking for all the signs coming, but luckily it was a bit more. I mean, there's still your corruption with the UT, Doug Manchester, and all that, and then there was this one news publication that was pushing for the Republican lady, basically a front operation. But I was included, and that's kind of how I got to at least cause shivers in the system, because I was kind of playing as a bit of an equal player. But they had the most money to be able to make all the robocalls, all the mailers and everything like that. But I do wish more people would indeed, actually get out and vote, because that gives what I have to say more credibility. It's more of a mandate. So when all these people do end up flooding City Hall, they could be like, the goal is, what I asked for originally was, why don't just a couple hundred people show up to City Hall so a couple hundred people vote for me? And they're making a conscious vote to vote for me. They know what I stand for. They know. So if they're consciously voting for me, then their activism, they must take an obligation to make their activism 365 days a year. Obviously, you don't want to burn yourself out, but we're all just pitching our 2 cents within the limited hours we have in the day. Go to a city hall meeting every other week, and instead of yelling at politicians on the TV screen, yell at them to their face. It's really fun sometimes, and especially if you do a strength in numbers, you'll get things done. But I think if I'm getting 387 votes, but if you go to my Facebook page and extreme amounts of props to the anti-media for making that happen, it's the exact opposite. It's like a ton of reach, worldwide reach. Like people are saying, if I lived in Encinitas, I'd vote for you. It's really inspirational. It means that these ideas are these corporate shills that are running in Encinitas, they couldn't do the same thing, obviously. So what I'm really doing is both on a local level, because I put up all my signs, which have my website, freeencinitas.org, which I want anybody to use as a blueprint, copy. I don't really care. It's a kind of like a way like how a young person can get elected. They could probably, go door to door more than I did, because I was spending a lot. I also do some other things on the side. But the website was presentable. It's educational, like honest media section, know your rights section, and then things that basically empower young people to divest their minds and their bodies and their souls out of the two-party system. So I think even the 300, I probably touched a lot more than those people. Even if an old person in a conservative area went and Googled that, they're getting smacked in the face with the truth in a more in a respectful, open-hearted, positive, tasteful way. But it's still the truth. it's not like fear mongering like Alex Jones, but it's the truth.
And to me, like, your candidacy is like the ideal candidate, in my opinion. Why? Because I don't want a candidate that is a professional, full-time politician.
Correct.
I want someone. If I'm going to elect a politician to preside over my life, then I want someone that's as hands-off as possible, because I want someone that has their own life and that does their own has their own way of earning a living. Because I read this biography on John Adams, which was the second president of the United States, and that's one of the things that he told his son, which was John Quincy Adams, which became, I think, the 16th, 17th, one of the later presidents. He's like, first make your business as a farmer, or whatever it is you're going to do, and then have the politics on the aftermath. You don't want to be making a living off that, because that's not a noble living. And people that are professional politicians, the reason that they're able to be professional politicians is because they're taking money from other people, and they're taking money from special interests, or they're siphoning money off the taxpayer or whatever. And it's like where people complain about the do-nothing Congress, and all the gridlock in Congress and stuff. I'm like, dude, I want Congress to be gridlocked, because I don't want them passing a bunch of crap laws that are horribly affecting me.
Well, what was the statistic? 11% approval rating, 96% incumbency. That's what I hope. Like, if anything, what my candidacy does is that gets people acquainted to the notion of what you were talking about, like or somebody that's not a politician running for office and actually, having an equal shot. Like, I had an equal shot. I didn't have all the money. I could have competed with them on the outside of, like, the public sphere, with, like, going door to door and mailers and stuff like that. But when I'm talking about what I'm talking about, it's hard to get a lot of donations. But you can, if you really try at a local level. Sometimes it is hard, but you can do it, and you can rely a lot on just making some noise and getting the word out there, and volunteer time, because young people, they don't really have that much jobs anyway, so they could spend their time guaranteeing a better future for their children and grandchildren. But educating people at the local level, I think all these people are probably now starting to think outside the two-party system, which will help lead into 2016, because I'm definitely like, I know people say, like, I don't want to choose between masters, but I'm not running to be a master. So you should vote for people like me, because it gives it credibility. So anything that will kill a two-party system, beneficial for humanity, we have to do it, because they're killing people literally overseas. It's actually a one party, the war party. So every vote you give to a candidate like myself, who's honest and authentic, and I hate to apply those words to myself, but it does make an impact, because otherwise if I would have not run, it would have just been a charade that would have gone on uninterrupted, and the people would have been woken up.
So let's talk about this election in California, the gubernatorial election. So we had a choice between a douche and a turd sandwich. So the douche is obviously Jerry Brown, which is now likely to become a fourth-term governor. Oh. And the turd sandwich was Neil Kashkari, which was a Goldman Sachs shill, former Obama administration that oversaw the bailouts of Wall Street, basically. So basically, this guy, the guy that we had running against Jerry Brown, which is a corporatist Democrat, was basically, he came from Goldman Sachs.
He was the villain.
And then he worked for the Obama administration. He helped bail out Wall Street, and now he's running for governor of California. These were our two choices in California. So we had a choice between a giant douche and a turd sandwich. So tell me a little bit more about these guys, and now it's very close. They can't even call this yet.
Really?
It's like 49-50. It's still not even called yet. So no matter who we get, we're either going to have Jerry Brown or Kashkari. Both of them are a horrible option. Tell me about these guys, and tell me about why it's so bad that we have just these two horrible options to pick from.
Well, first of all, Kashkari looks exactly like the villain from The Mummy Returns. First of all, but it's Jerry. Or so we talked about Prop 47. We didn't talk about Proposition 1, which is like, water, fix our water or get us more water or whatever. It's like, it's really water privatization and like subsidies for big agriculture, in disguise. And some of the No on One people had a video, confrontation with Jerry Brown, and they were like, isn't this benefiting big ag? And was like, yeah, well, big ag, big oil, big bank, they all support me because I'm a big guy, and that's Jerry Brown. And the problem is a lot of so-called people on the left are supporting this guy, even though he's obviously the antithetical of what he think he is, but because they think so blindly, voting Democrat as a religion of the state. It's like it's the 80% election rate for Nancy Pelosi. It's the same thing. It's like people who are liberal are not actually liberal. It's not applying if they have any principles. Well, that's why like one of the people that have endorsed me, one of my friends, Cindy Sheehan, who's like really been screaming like where did the anti-war left movement go, and how the left really used her like to during the Bush years. Even then they were combative against her. Like MoveOn.org. Actually, Ernie from Freedom's Phoenix talked about how it's like kind of like the controlled opposition. MoveOn pretends to be all liberal, but they supported a phase out of Iraq rather than Cindy was supporting an immediate withdrawal from Iraq. So this is where the corporate media gets us. But the top sheet primary is a complete illusion. I left that part of my ballot blank. Like like when I say I sympathize with the non-voters, if I wasn't on the ballot, if 47 wasn't on the ballot, if I didn't have to vote no on Prop 1 to prevent the privatization of water and the Monsanto subsidies, if the medical marijuana wasn't on the ballot, if I had no like legitimate initiatives or candidates to vote for, yes, I would not vote. I would protest and not vote. Like, I'm definitely not about choosing between masters or choosing between the cycle of oppression. But when you have 30-party candidates, you have an obligation and a duty to vote for them, because if they do win, then they can go in and vote no on foreign aid to Israel, vote no on the wars. And even if it's like they're in the minority, even if one person in the Senate was dissenting against voting to send foreign aid to Israel, imagine what better than unanimous. So I just think it can only be beneficial if we support independent candidates. If they don't win, like Adrian Wiley in Florida got over 200,000 votes. That's a mandate. That's a movement, and that has real traction, and that really scares the pants off the establishment. But if you got 1,000, then they could ridicule him, and then we'd prevent human progress, from ending the wars or ending, obviously Florida, big drug war stuff, Cuba, or the open ocean, and if anybody watched the movie Machete, you'll know that there's a collusion with the drug cartels, the politicians, and the intelligence community. It's all one big mafia.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, I think everyone listening knows that I'm not the hugest fan of voting. Do I tell people not to vote? No, but do I tell people to vote? Not normally, but I do think voting has a role to play in the intellectual revolution, right?
It's not end all be all.
Exactly. It is a small part of the puzzle that we need to put together to more or less get us on track to a more justice-based system. Because right now it's very oppressed. It's an oligarchy. We kill a lot of people around the world and drop bombs on people. And any country that does that is an empire, and that is the state of American society. But I think other than voting, I mean, there's so many other things that we can do. And for one is voting with your money, and that's the obvious one. But there's so many other options that we can take. And voting once every 2 years or once every 4 years is not I think it's not an excuse for everyone to just, I cast my vote, I'm going to be complacent for the next 2 years. No, that's what it's all about. Like if you actually want to talk about democracy and representation, you need to be out there demanding that representation every day or every week or whatever. You can't just come out once every 2 years and expect to be a ballot revolutionary. You can't. Yeah. No one's ever created a revolution through the voting ballot.
Well, Steve Biko said that revolution is not an event; it's a process. So it's not one day. Although it doesn't hurt to get out, fill in a bubble for an alternative party candidate, and if enough people did that, they'd actually win and be able to get in. And it's better that these criminal politicians either go to jail or be in the unemployment line, not have a job oppressing people anymore, and be replaced by someone like myself. That would be ideal, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think we have to, because even if they don't win it shows strength that we are sick of the two-party system, and we want to see somebody like Ron Paul or Gary Johnson or Ralph Nader or Jill Stein in office actually, and we'd still hold them accountable to their. But we obviously know that presidents are not elected; they're selected. But the problem is that cements itself if enough people don't rally around alternative party candidates. And then you like I like both Gary Johnson and Jill Stein, so even though I may support one more over the other, I'm not like saying pox on the other candidates. Like I think there's a unity thing when we have unity. It's like we're not about debates and being at each other's throats. We're about like let's bring humanity together to fix all these problems caused by the elites. It can only help, and that's where like the whole going back to Neil Kashkari. Actually, well, I mentioned Cindy Sheehan. She actually ran for governor, and the whole she. I mean, not that maybe she wouldn't have won in a November election, but don't take away my choice. I want to vote for no matter what. I hate that top two choice. But Neil Kashkari, I confronted him here. He came to San Diego for like a Voice of San Diego event. I confronted him. I asked him about working for a member of the Bilderberg Group, Timothy Geithner. He pretended to not know what actually, if you just go to the anti-media article about my mayoral candidacy, the 22-year-old destroys the two-party system on television, the videos of me confronting Kashkari is on there. It's pretty hilarious. He got pretty pissed off and walked away. But it's like he worked for Goldman Sachs, helped to build the financial crisis, basically following the orders of the Federal Reserve's financial plan to build up the economy and then crash it so they can buy up all the assets when they're super cheap. He's basically a puppet within a puppet. Then he goes in, works under the Bush administration for TARP. Then Obama comes in, he continues as a TARP manager underneath Geithner, and basically bails out his former employer. And he voted for Obama, and now he's running as a Republican, claiming that he's on the side of unemployed youth, saying that youth, they're not lazy, they're just dealing in a crappy economy. The one that you crashed.
Yeah, I mean, like half of his message is actually true. He's like, yeah, the youth aren't lazy. That's true. They're stuck in this crap economy with a bunch of debt. Yeah, that part of it is true, but the part of it how he's going to fix it, no, dude, you helped cause it, bro. And it's like, get the hell out of here. We know you're a fraud, and we know Jerry Brown's a fraud, but you guys are our only two choices. And so in California, despite the fact that we did something great and that we passed Prop 215 years ago that set the stage for marijuana legalization, we just got done passing Prop 47, which is a major blow to the drug war. This time we're stuck with these two idiot candidates.
Yeah.
Well, hey, if I can cut in for a second here, one thing that we could possibly...
I was glad, though, as young as you are, Alex, I'm kind of glad that you have the guts to run and stuff like that, because it just, I like to see more young people stand out at everything, like Nick was saying earlier about the young people waking up. Well, they need to be out there in the streets and waking everybody else up and stuff like that. And it's like Stevie said, there's more, all these millions are underage. You know what, I got news for these underage kids. You know what they should go do? Go read the Constitution, because most of those kids don't know the Constitution. I came here illegally or undocumented. I like to say, I know the Constitution better than people that are born here. You know what I mean? Because their life doesn't depend on passing a test like I had to become a U.S. citizen. I had to pass with a 70%, and there's 100 questions, and you better know at least 70% of them or you're dead, and stuff like that. So the young people need to stand out and do something for themselves. They just can't be complaining, They need to be educating themselves so when they turn 18, they can go out there and vote and stuff like that. And, of course, we need candidates to not let these incumbents, a lot of them were, one, uncontested. I couldn't believe all these candidates that saw uncontested,
Exactly, but I think, like I said, voting isn't an end-all, be-all. It's part of a larger equation. It doesn't. As much even if you're against voting, if you have an alternative party candidate, it doesn't hurt to get out on a Tuesday and just fill in a circle, because you never know, that person might get elected and help to stop foreign aid to Israel, and some kids in Gaza could live longer. And that's the benefit of all this. But either way, it doesn't end on Election Day. If anything, I think this is just the beginning, especially since I really want to inspire a lot of the young people in high schools and Encinitas to take on drug policy, because it screws up their lives so much, and they can't vote, so they could yell at a politician and be like, hey, you claim all these drug-free youth. That's actually prohibition is the worst for us. So it's I hope I did wake up a lot of young people, and so some people didn't even know that yesterday. Like I was canvassing for the Medical Cannabis Initiative, and I walked up to someone that I actually presented to a high school class of mine, and he was like, I saw you in class, but he didn't even know that today was the election day. He thought he didn't even know that today was the only day to vote. So I told him, go there before 7 or 8 p.m. to vote. But I talked to him. he actually found out about the independent journalist site Mint Press News through my website. He's like, dude, I'm in love with Mint Press News right now. And he's like, we were talking about Immortal Technique and all this stuff. I'm like, you got to make sure all people that like young people got to listen to Revolutionary Volume 2, and then you'll be set and get involved, go to City Hall meetings, and I think that's really like, just create this movement.
So before we overlook the happenings of today, besides all the election drama, which at the federal level is more or less irrelevant because it's just a dog and pony show or whatever, Million Mask March went off today.
Nice.
Which was pretty big. It was all over the world and stuff, and we went to the one out in San Diego, and it was pretty good. We had a lot of people out there, and you know what was cool? A lot of young people, man. I met a kid that was 19 years old, and people that were like, and I literally asked him, my buddy was there with us. He was like, I was like, how old are you, man, 19? And he's like, yeah, and he's like, I asked him, do you know about the Federal Reserve? He's like, yeah, I know all about the Federal Reserve.
Nice.
Like, well, there you go. 19-year-old kids that know about the Federal Reserve. There is still hope for humanity.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
did the LAPD's website get shut down?
It's not that the young people are complacent as much as that they're pissed off and they don't have a voice.
Yeah.
And so what we need is something that can kind of galvanize that voice, dude. And because the young people, like DB was saying, how many was it? Like 75 million, like some astronomical number of people under 18. I mean, that's an astronomical number, dude. I mean, imagine what that can do.
Well, they would get out and vote somebody like Alex in too.
Exactly.
Hey, you like Anonymous?
What was that?
I said you like the group Anonymous?
Anonymous, I think they've done some. I think they've done some good things.
Didn't they shut down the LAPD website today for Million Mask March?
That's the rumor. I don't know if it's true, but that's what's being said. So,
okay. You know what you should go check out and videotape? You should go to my home state. Some uprising, some young people up there really kicking it in up there. I mean, that's a real protest up there. You know what I mean?
You talking about Guerrero?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big time.
Yeah, man, and that's something we should bring up too here at the end is what's going on down in Mexico, because you heard about all those students that went missing. Yeah. Now apparently the mayor of the city had gone on the run, and now he's been caught, and they're basically holding him and his wife accountable for these people coming up missing. And then there was a big protest today. I don't know if you saw the pictures that were coming out today from down in Mexico about in protest of these kids going missing. But I mean, these protests were enormous, dude. These are bigger than any protests we've been having in the U.S. So I think they're actually in Mexico. There's enough social upheaval and momentum that they're actually starting to be able to hold these guys accountable. It's either they hold them accountable or they're going to kick them out of the territory, just like they're doing in the autonomous zones down in Mexico, the self-defense zones. They're kicking the government and the cartels out of these places. So now these guys, whenever something happens and the people stand up, guess what? They actually have to arrest the mayor. They have to prosecute the mayor and all this stuff because they're so afraid that more and more of these territories are going to kick the government out. And that's and you're right, man. This is the kind of stuff that we need to get real with here in the U.S., where we actually say, you know what? We're not going to play within that system. We're going to create our own system, and once enough people within here create the system, we're kicking all you assholes out.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that we got to do, and that's how we can start to get some real justice and some real transparency if we really give them a threat to their power.
Can we arrest the person who got elected, who won the mayor of Encinitas election?
Oh yeah, I want to see good news from Mexico. By the way, this Marine that got let go from the Tecate jail is now in Florida. The judge let him go on humanity rights. He didn't want to prosecute him, so he let him go. So he's now released in the United States. Okay.
Yeah, that's good news because he was arrested for gun charges, because Mexico has an outlaw on most guns. Now the people in the self-defense areas, do they have guns? Yes, they're armed and well armed. So keep that in mind, especially here in the U.S. People want to get swept into this gun control frenzy. Bad idea. You got it. You can never
Alright.
take away guns from the people. If you want to take away guns, take away from the government.
Just one final thing. RoofTestFact.com. Take out money out of politics.
All right, Nick. Hello, Stevie.
Bye, everybody.